Good morning, everyone. Today, I would like to talk about a topic you may know, you may not. It's about immutable blob storage, and especially if you're preparing for easy 303 or 304 exam, this is definitely a topic that you should understand, and you may expect some questions around it because it's I think it's a very testable topic for the exam. Okay, so what it is and when to use it. So if you need worm, or if you're familiar with the term worm, which really means write once and read many, if you want that feature, you want to use the immutable blob storage. Okay, so what it is, so it may be you have multiple critical files that you want to make sure that they cannot be absolutely deleted, not even by administrators. Okay, how can you do that? So Azure provides this special feature where you can add either a time-based retention policy and you lock it, or you can have a legal hold policy and you can make your data that are being stored in those storage containers as worm. Okay, where it will become non-erasable and not modifiable for a user specified interval for the time-based retention policy. Blobs can be created and read, so you can still upload your files, videos, documents, whatever you want, but none of them can be modified or deleted. And this feature is supported for general purpose v1, v2, BlobStorage, and the BlockBlobStorage as well. And typically you would see this feature to be implemented in the healthcare industry, financial industry, where they have to meet lots of regulations. For example, ACC 17A4F, CFTC 1.31D, and FINRA. Okay, so again, secure document retention where even admins can delete it, use this feature. Legal hold when you're really responding to some legal queries and you have been told, okay, you have to hold make this storage, these documents non-deletable, but you don't know for how long, so you cannot really apply a time-based retention policy. So you can use a legal hold policy in that case where you do not know how long you have to maintain this particular worm feature. Okay, so we will look at both of them in our Azure and see how to use those policies. One thing I wanted to mention, for a time-based retention policy, it has to be locked for the blob to be a compliant immutable. So when you create the time-based retention policy, the policy itself is unlocked. So when you are testing this policy, use this feature, but quickly it's recommended that you move it to a locked time-based policy so this feature is in place. Okay, and the other thing, you understand the effective retention period and define policy accordingly. What I mean, this is probably the worst picture you have ever seen, but what I'm trying to show here, this is a container. Okay, this is a storage container or a blob container, and this is a timeline. This T is for timeline. So timeline is growing this way. It says 0, so this is the 0-year timeline, this is the 1-year timeline. So you have been using this container, say cont1, okay, for a while, and at the end of year 1 you have decided, okay, this is the time and we're going to implement a time-based retention policy. Now you already have some blobs created in this period, like say at the beginning you created a blob, say B1, and now at the end of year 1 you're applying a time-based retention policy, okay, that is for 5 years. Okay, so you want to maintain this policy for 5 years. Okay, nobody can delete. But since this blob was created a year early, the effective retention period for this one becomes 5 minus 1. Okay, so that is 4 years. But if you create a new blob after this creation of this time-based retention policy, it will still have full 5 years available to you. I just want to make sure that you realize this important aspect of this time-based retention policy and create and define your policies accordingly. Okay, so let's now go to go to our Azure environment and see where and how to do that. Okay, so let's come back over here and let's start working on it. Alright, now we are back in the Azure portal. This is a brand new portal for me. So if I go to my storage account and it says, hey buddy, you have nothing, that's not a problem. So let's create one. And actually there is one other thing. This is the link where from the Azure documentation you can have a kind of a quick start. Let me make sure this I'm looking at the right one. Set retention policy, yeah, this is the right one. So I'm going to give you this link and we are going to try to follow this documentation as closely as possible for this lab. Okay, so let's come back over here again. Where were we? We are here. So let's get rid of couple of things from here. All right, so here to create a storage account, I'm gonna create a new resource group and I'm gonna say test store. Okay, RG for resource group, and I'm gonna say okay. And over here, name, that name has to be globally unique. I'm gonna say store retention. Okay, so that green mark means this name I can use it. East US is good. I'm gonna use storage v2, and if you remember, this feature is available for all three types: BlobStorage, storage, and v2. BlobStorage, I gotta make sure, go back over here and double verify if that was really supported. Where did we go? Here. So supported, we shared blobs. Yeah, so all three that you can choose from the drop down, all of three of them are supported, but I'm gonna go with v2. Replication I really don't need, so I'm just gonna go with LRS. Okay, and it's a hot tier, is good for me. Networking, I don't have to do anything crazy. Then data protection, I don't need to do anything crazy. Then advanced, I don't need anything. Tags, say I don't need anything. And I'm just gonna create a storage account. So it's going through the validation. So it's the configuration for a very basic storage account is really simple. So it doesn't take very long either to create. So it will probably take 30 seconds to create it. So let's once it's created, I'll show you what you need to do to create a container and then apply some policies. Okay, so while this is going on, let's probably we can go over here and do some reading over here. So on this one, this document, it says set and manage immutability policies for BlobStorage. Okay, this is kind of what we're gonna do, and I have already talked to you guys about the worm, write once and read many, and you can see even Microsoft is saying it's use it to store business critical data objects. Okay, and let's see. So we can look at all three. Okay, we can do it using the portal, the Power CLI, and the PowerShell, and we may try all three of them, but we'll focus on the portal and how to do it first. Okay, it's real easy from the portal. And let's see, enabling allow protected append blob. This is something else that we can also do. Okay, so it shouldn't take very long at all. So let's come back over here, and my storage account is now created completely. And so when I go to the storage account, you have the four main options, four main features, where I have the container, which is really the blob storage, the file share that supports the serverless SMB file shares, tables, and a queue. So all these are not that we're gonna that supports this feature. So we gotta go to the container. So let's create a container. Let's create a container for, I'm gonna name it retention test. Okay, so let's see if that name is available. It looks like it does. So I'm gonna create a blob, and this blob container, the name of its retention test. Now how do you apply the policy? The first of all, let me make sure the blob is working fine. So I'm just gonna maybe go to my pictures folder and just pick one of these random files from here, and I'm gonna upload it, and the upload is successful, right? So from here, what I wanna do, I wanna delete these files as well. So I'm gonna delete this, okay, and hit, so I can successfully delete this file as well. So let's re-upload it and keep it over there this time. All right, and upload. Now, so how do you want to how do you want to stop me? So like I'm logged in as the global administrator of this account. How do you want to stop me from deleting, so that even I will not have any power to delete this? Like, so let's close this. So see, make sure that you know how to get to there. Okay, so again, what you do, if you want to get to that, just type storage accounts here. Okay, so the storage account will show all the storage account that you have. Click on the storage account. Okay, so you come to this overview page, go to containers. Under containers, it will show you any containers that you have created. Go inside the container. Now on the left hand, your blades, now they have 3 different blades under settings: access policy, properties, and metadata. And access policy is where you want to go to, and here if you look at it, stored access policy, here you have nothing defined. It says add a policy, and immutable blob storage, and here you have access policy. So let's start what is going on over here. So stored access policy, if I click on here, it says identifier, start time, and end time. And if you click on it, it's giving me read, add, create, write, delete, and list. That looks something we can do. So let's not do this. Let's come back over here and focus on the immutable blob storage policy. Okay, so this is the policy. If you click on this icon, the icon, it says user defined policy applied to a container for retaining the data in all blobs in the container in a non-modifiable and delete protected state. Choose one policy at a time. Retention policy changes may require some time to take effect. Okay, so here, this is where you can make this blob as immutable blob storage, where you can have a legal hold policy, or if you click over here, you have the time-based retention. You can also do that one. Okay, so legal hold, if you each legal hold policy needs to be associated with one or more tags. Tags are used as a name identifier, such as case ID, to categorize and view records. Retention policy changes may require some time to effect. So that's fine. So tag, so call it FINRA. Okay, and I say okay. Okay, so now what happened? You got a legal hold policy, and that's so simple. So all I said, came over here, clicked under the add policy under the immutable blob storage, and I say okay, add a policy. Okay, and it says retention interval is indefinite, state is automatically enabled. So if I click on it, and if I click edit, this tag I can delete. So before I do anything, okay, so let's go back to the container. Okay, so what do you think? Can I delete this particular image from this folder? So let's try it out. So let's click on delete and click everything, and look at that. It says fail to delete one out of one blobs blank.png. This operation is not permitted as the blob is immutable due to one or more legal holds. So that's so simple. Now even I'm a global administrator, I cannot delete it. But can I remove that policy? So let's try it out. So let's go back to the access policy, and over here what I want to do, I want to try to delete this tag. Okay, so let's see that. So here, successfully updated retention policy for container retention test. Okay, now you see again I don't have any policy at all. So now can I delete this? So let's go back over here and click on it and delete this, and say okay. And what happened? Oh my god. So I was able to remove that legal hold, and I'm able to successfully delete that blob. Okay, so what if you really want to make me not be able to delete it for a certain amount of time? So let's upload that file again one more time. So let's upload this file, and this time what we want to do, we want to apply. So if you come back over here, I don't have any policy again. Okay, now this time we are going to add a time-based retention period. So here you can apply this retention period, and you just, this is in days, so you just have to say like 365 days or whatever. And here if you read this, enter the time interval in days that the data needs to be kept in a non-erasable, non-modified state. Upon the expiration of the retention interval, the data will continue to be in a non-modified state but can be deleted. Retention policy changes may require some time to take effect. So say, let's say I just need for 30 days, okay, and then allow additional protected appends. I just don't need that, so just stick to my 30, and I'm just gonna say okay. So now with this one thing that you notice, here the retention interval, the last one for the legal policy, it's set indefinite. Here it says 30 days because that's what I have defined, because I know that I only need to keep this data for 30 days. But look at that, here the state says unlocked. Okay, so now with the unlocked state, can I delete a file? So let's go back over here, click, and then delete this file. Look at that, it says no, you cannot delete this. Although the policy is unlocked, the operation is not permitted because it's immutable due to policy. So I can still come back over here, click over here, and I can delete this policy. Okay, so now again we are back to a place where I don't have any policy. So let's go back over here, click on this one again, and delete. Oh, it says this operation is not permitted as the blob is immutable due to policy. I think this is a problem because it takes a little bit of time for this policy to take effect. So the storage is still thinking, although I have deleted the policy, I probably still do have the policy. So just give it a minute. So what I'm expecting, since I do not have any policy anymore, I should be able to delete this one, okay, as well. Now there we go. So now I have deleted that as well. So how? So I showed you two different ways. So I have created a legal hold, but if I'm a rogue admin, I can go there, remove the legal hold and delete. If I add a time-based retention and I didn't lock it, then if I'm a rogue admin, I can get in, remove that policy, I can delete the file. So let's see what else can you do. Okay, so let's upload the file one last time. Okay, so it's here again, I have that file. Again we go back to the access policy. Okay, and then under Immutable Blob storage policies, let's add another policy and again add it for 30 days. Hit OK. Now this time what I want to lock this policy. Look at that. Completing this retention policy process is irreversible. Okay, so that is the most important thing that you should understand. Ensure the retention policy is configured as desired. Retention policy changes may require some time to take effect. So here if you say yes and okay, now this policy is locked. Can you delete this policy? No. So now even if I am the administrator, I have no option to delete this policy. Okay, so now think about this as from exam standpoint. So you may get questions like that, hey, you want to protect some of your data in a container for a certain amount of time. What kind of policy do you want to use? Are you going to go with a time-based retention policy, or do you want to use a legal hold? So what should be your answer? So to me, the answer should be a time-based retention policy which is locked. Okay, if it's locked, there is no way I can delete it anymore before 30 days. So if I now go back to the overview again and try to delete it, okay, there's no way I can delete it. I'm a rogue admin. I want to change the policy. Okay, I see the policy, it's there for 30 days. No, buddy, I cannot even delete this. I cannot remove this policy at all. So understand the difference between the blob, between the legal hold policy and the time-based retention policy, and why one should be favored over the other. Okay, that's very important. So now let's go back to this. I didn't really follow this, so let's just kind of go through it and see what they have done. Here they were creating a new container, and then also they were adding a policy to the storage, and they only work, looks like, with the time-based retention policy. And again, it mentioned regulation like section 17A4 that I have already mentioned. They're also recommending that you should lock the policy. Once you have locked the policy, the policy is now locked and cannot be deleted. Only extension of the retention interval will be allowed. That is interesting. So let's go back and make sure that we agree to that one. So if I do an edit, and what it says, enter the time interval in days that the data needs to be kept as a non-erasable. So if I'm rogue admins, if I'm say, okay, let's make that 0, so that will make the policy effectively not valid anymore, right? Or maybe make that 1. Alright, so what it's telling me, maybe if I can read it, it's telling probably something like, I can't read this for some reason, so let's come back. And policy audit, it says we did it, we first created the policy at this hour, and then we locked the policy at this time. So it's but can we extend? Okay, let's go back over here one more time. So in this one we looked at, and we were not able to reduce the time of the retention period, but can we make that maybe 60? Okay, all right. So yeah, so we can extend, elongate our time-based retention policy, but we cannot reduce it. That's another security feature that's important. Okay, so we have looked at that one now. So legal hold we have looked at, and one other thing is enabling the allow protected append ball. So you can also do that when you are creating the policy. But that's all about it. So in other video, I'll probably going to go ahead with the Azure CLI commands or the Azure PowerShell and show you how to do that. But for this video, that's all I wanted to cover. So again, if you are especially studying for the AZ 303, 304 exam, please understand the difference between the legal hold and time-based retention policy. Understand worm, write once, read many, and understand the main difference between the time-based and legal, and which one you must be using, especially if you have a requirement that even the administrator cannot delete it for a certain amount of time. And I'm going to give you these 2 links in the video for you to do your further study on this topic. If you like this video, please subscribe, give me a thumbs up, and if you're studying for the certification exam, good luck. Thank you for watching.